This is awesome. I just have to start by saying that. My name is Lily, and I'm a 25-year-old American woman. But that is the last thing I ever think about when someone asks me to describe myself. I'm a daughter, a sister, a niece, a granddaughter, fiance, and my favorite, I am a mom. As we gather here today, there may be some of you here for all different reasons. I am here to support one of our brothers who was brutally and justly murdered 2 weeks ago, George Floyd. George was a grandson, a son, a father, a brother, a spouse. Most of these many of you guys can relate to. The events following his death has hurt my heart, but mostly for the fact my heart hurts for George's mom, a mother who lost her son in a horrible way. I have different views on what is going on in the world right now with the African American culture, and because of my upbringing and my life, which I'm about to share some of with you, it has made me see the world from different sides. I was born with my twin brother to a cocaine-addicted mother in Kansas City, Missouri. With an absent father, we were adopted and raised in Wyoming and Montana, where we spent our whole life. We were the subject to many years of abuse, educational neglect, and in a sense, modern-day slavery. We never knew when our next meal would be taken away, or when we would wake up to getting beat with a belt, or how long some of us would stand on the back porch in the snow in our bare feet. I was raised by a white couple who fostered over 30 children and adopted 10 of us. Most of my siblings were disabled, so older ones were not allowed to go to school, and we had to stay home and tend to the disabled and the younger ones to help take the load off of our mother. My parents received more money for adopting non-white children and children with disabilities. CPS and the police were called to our house what seemed to be hundreds of times and never lived up to serve and protect those children. A lot of times, I did think my skin color had a lot to do with it. Because of the white community I lived in, everywhere I have ever lived my whole entire life, I have been a minority. There were many days I blamed my skin color on my parents' abuse. Maybe they didn't want me. How can I love a child that isn't theirs, let alone clearly didn't look like them? When the abuse got bad, I started running away, and my adopted parents would always tell me that my real family didn't want me, which is all I longed for, was to live with the family that I looked like. Little did I know, you do not have to look like those who you call your family. The last few weeks, I have had multiple people reach out to me and tell me that I was raised in a white community with white parents, so how would I know anything about the struggles of being Black these days? I may have not been raised in the hood, the ghetto, or in the South, where it is predominantly Black, but I'll tell you, being raised Black in a white community was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. When I was 15, I was sent to a group home because my abuser had enough of me standing up to her, protecting myself and my siblings. I was finally free. I was at a group home for almost a year because the state did not want me home with my abusers. I was finally put into a foster home with a police officer and his family just before I turned 16, where I met my best friend of 10 years. I was court-ordered to attend public school for the first time in my life, and I was testing at first and second grade levels at age 15. I had a lot of work to do to catch up. I was one of 3 Black kids in a school of 400, and everyone thought I was a foreign exchange student. Kids frequently used the phrase nigga in front of me and made sure it was directed elsewhere so they did not get in trouble. Or they would joke and say they would give me a white eye instead of a black eye. I was called the N-word, I was laughed at and talked about, and the teachers assumed I knew the answers to all of the African American history questions. My story is long, and I'm not here to share the whole thing. I'm here because some of you think racism does not exist in predominantly white communities, or smaller ones at that. So many think that racism only exists in the South, the hood, or downtown LA, but racism is everywhere. I have lived in a white community my whole life, and I probably stand out like a light bulb if I were to visit a community like the hood. Billings, Montana is my home, and has been for the last 4 years. As most of you know, there are not a lot of Black people in Billings, let alone in Montana. I am proud to call Billings my home. I have never been held at gunpoint, been physically harmed, or discriminated against by any local officers. I have been pulled over a few times because I do have a lead foot, and every time I did, I was treated very kindly by the officers. And I thank you, and it puts ease to my mind that your officers are highly trained, and I do not have to worry about the same thing that happened to George Floyd happening to me, I hope. Racism does exist in Billings, and if you disagree, just ask someone who is a different race than you are. Seeing what happened to George Floyd and knowing about all the other innocent people, men and women, who die at the hands of police, racists, or people who just hate the world has me very angry right now. I have mixed children. Their dad is white. And I grew up seeing people for who they are, not the color that they are. Being in a biracial relationship with mixed children can be hard at times, but it mostly has to do with being a minority here. I've had so many people reach out and tell me that Black people have the same rights as them and we need to stop complaining. Well, you can buy a gun, so can I. You can peacefully protest, so can I. I have this freedom of speech, you guys have this freedom of speech, and so do I. But we are not here fighting or protesting for the rights our ancestors already fought for. We are fighting to have our privileges back. We should not have to fear routine officer stop because our brake lights are out. We should not have to worry about being brutally beat or murdered for looking like somebody else. Being Black, we are 9 times more likely to get the police called on us. We should not have to worry about walking in a neighborhood and having racist behavior. That is what we mean when you hear the term white privilege. It has nothing to do with not having the same rights as a Black person. It's being able to do the things a Black person cannot do without fearing for your safety or life, and that is privilege. I did not fear any of this until 2 weeks ago. I saw what Black communities are doing all over the United States. I've seen officers retaliate, and now we're more cautious because it seems like all Black people are angry at them. And I cannot speak for all of us, but I am not angry at all police officers, just the ones who are abusing their power. No justice, no peace, prosecute the police. That has been heard at hundreds of riots and protests all around the world. And how dare we say that? How dare we blame all officers for the behaviors and murders only a handful have committed? My foster dad is an officer, and he took me in when I was a teenager, and he gave me almost 2 years of a safe, loving, protected home. He did his job. He protected me from my abusers, and that was what he was oath to do. Black people are very angry right now, and rightfully so. Police are killing us when we are unarmed, in our own homes, or driving home from work, and enough is enough. Some may argue that more Blacks kill each other, and that may be, but worrying about what our own race does to each other is secondary when those who are sworn to protect and not kill innocent people are out killing. What is going on in the world? It's a race issue, it's a hate issue, and it's a power issue. Because of the stereotypes about Black people, officers assume we are all the same, but I assure you we are all not law-breaking, gang-banging, hood-living criminals. I have met some of my biological family members, and some of them are the nicest people I have ever met, even growing up in the hood. Where we live should not define us. How we talk should not define us, and the color of our skin needs to stop defining us. I don't have the answers, but I know with big change there has to be big power. And I know we cannot be powerful unless we stand together as one, which takes us to All Lives Matter. So many of us want to see it happen. Let George Floyd be the last innocent murder at the hands of an officer. Let his story be the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020, be the revolution for equal privileges. We should all be able to walk down the street and be friends. We should all be able to see each other from the inside, not the outside. We should all be able to make a mistake that doesn't cost us our life. If I have any advice, please educate yourself about what really goes on in Black communities or in the life of a Black person instead of living and believing all the stereotypes. And we, as Black people, need to stop making excuses for our riot-like behavior. We need to stop thugging it up and living out the stereotypes of our race. If we want those who can make a change to help us make that change. I may be a nobody to some of you, but I am a person, and my life matters just as much as yours does. I may be one person, but I have a voice, and I will keep using my voice to make a change in this world, and you can too. Like Martin Luther King said, we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools.